Tony and I want to welcome you today to our study in the Psalms. We're in Psalm 35, and this is a really tough psalm to pray if you pray it just like it's written. King David had some enemies, and he was after them, and he prayed very fervently against them. I've never been able to pray that way, but I have been able to take this prayer and to use it rather frequently to pray about three big enemies that we all have, and that is the world system, the flesh, which I'm going to talk about as our self-will. That's more understandable, I think, and then the devil. And so we're going to talk about the devil today. Tomorrow we'll talk about the flesh or self-will, and then the next day we're going to talk about the world system. So the devil is a real live being who comes to kill and to steal and destroy our lives. He appears very early in the Bible. So in the Garden of Eden, he's called a snake. He came to Eve and he said this. He said, "Did God really tell you?" And that's the real crux behind everything Satan does with us. He asks us to question God's will for our lives. He asks us to question God's guidance for our lives. And so I sometimes ask groups of people, I say, "Do you think God can throw a good party?" And sometimes the answer is kind of embarrassing. No, we never thought about God throwing a good party. We thought we had to live outside of God's will to have fun. So Satan comes and he's going to tempt you and tempt Tony and me. He's going to tempt us to think, does God really mean what he says? When we go to the New Testament, there are three temptations that Satan gives to Jesus that are very much a part of what all of us experience. Jesus has just fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. And the first temptation was for Jesus and then for us to use our power, the things that God's given us, our gifts, our intellect, our abilities, our money, to use it just for ourselves. And so Satan came to him and he said, "Well, if you're God's son," he pointed over some rocks, "turn these stones into bread." And so that's the first temptation. Am I going to use what God's given me just for me, or do I submit what God's given me to his purposes and his will? The second temptation was to tempt God to rescue him after clearly defying God's guidance. So Satan had taken Jesus up to a temple. He was up on the pinnacle of the temple. He said, "Cast yourself down, and God's going to catch you." And that's found in Matthew chapter 4, verse 6. And he had a Bible verse to add to it. And the thing about that particular temptation is for me to live out of self-will, to live my own way, to do my own thing. And then when things don't work out well, "Oh God, come and help me." So Tony and I have joked a little bit about I love barbecue and pizza and hamburgers. And I don't know if my arteries like those. I also like to add salt to my food. I don't know if that's really the best thing for me. But let's just say I get sick. What am I going to do? We're going to have a prayer chain. All pray for Bob. Help Bob get well. And God might be saying, "Bob, why don't you pray that you do the right thing rather than just pray for me to rescue you from your bad decisions?" And then the third temptation is to make disobedient compromises in order to get power and glory and greatness. So again, Satan took Jesus to a place where he could see all the world, all its power, and all its glory. And he said this, and this is probably one of the most awful things to ever say to the Son of God. "I'll give it all to you if you'll fall down and worship me." And he didn't mean that Jesus would get on his knees, I don't think literally. I think what he meant was play by my rules. Do it my way. And that is the temptation for all of us. As someone who's been in the public eye since I was 19 years old, I have really felt the seductive power of being well known, being respected, being liked, being applauded. And in order to get that, the temptation is, we'll just do it Satan's way. Shave a corner here, tell a little lie there, do what you want, not giant steps, but little steps that build into giant steps. And that is a huge temptation that we all face. And so we have those, and, we have a chance to pray about that temptation. Tony, why don't you take us through Psalm 35 and kind of let us know how we can read a verse and turn it in a prayer about victory over the enemy.
Sure. So let's go ahead and look at the verses in Psalm 35. And after each verse, I'm going to say a prayer that we can pray for victory. Verse 1 is, oppose those who oppose me, Lord, and fight those who fight against me. And then we can pray, dear God, please fight against any demon or spiritual power that is fighting against me. Verse 4, may those who try to kill me be defeated and disgraced. May those who plot against me be turned back and confused. We can pray, dear God, help me to be aware of the plots of the enemy to defeat or disgrace me. Turn them back. Verse 7 through 8, without any reason they laid a trap for me and dug a deep hole to catch me. But destruction will catch them before they know it. They will be caught in their own trap and fall to their destruction. Our prayer is, dear God, the enemy of my soul wants to kill, steal, and destroy my life. Catch him in his own trap and bring about his end. And so we truly see the spiritual battle that is going on that we may not even be aware of. But with whatever temptation we have, we know that in the spiritual realm, there is spiritual forces that fight against God and want us to succumb to temptation.
You got it. You're right. So I actually wrote this last night, and as I wrote it, I thought, it made me aware that there's an enemy out there trying to tempt me in all the different ways that I'm able to be tempted, and it put me on my guard. And I hope that when you pray this, you will do the same thing. It will put you on your guard, that you can think about, oh, there is an enemy out there who wants to really take care of my life. The psalm ends with these words, and maybe we ought to just end with this as our prayer. Then I'll be glad because of the Lord. I'll be happy because he saved me. With all my heart, I'll say to the Lord, there is no one like you. Well, we can praise God. There is no one like you, Lord. So thanks for being a part today. If you'd like prayer, send me an email at bsprad49.com or private message me on Facebook. Tony and I'll pray for you. And then our prayer team at Maywood Baptist Church will pray for you. Have a great day. God bless you lots. We'll see you tomorrow.